Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Sillage Scents. I'm Justin, and today I've got probably my 10 best cologne fragrances. Now, I will say it's tough to put together a list like this. I could have said 20 and had the same level of quality in 20 clones. But as we get going, I do want to ask you to consider subscribing to the channel. I've got videos coming out every 2 or 3 days, and I'd love it if you would join us. Also, let me know down in the comments, what are your top clones, the best of the best, ones that you highly, highly recommend. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. First up, I've got one that is a new pickup for me. It's been on my list for a long time, and this one at times has been out of stock for long periods. Now it seems to be everywhere for a great price. I didn't know that I was ordering an 8-ounce bottle for $51. This is Mercedes-Benz Intense. This gigantic bottle right here, it's like a gallon. I mean, this will last me forever. And so this stuff is a clone of Dior Fahrenheit. I love Dior Fahrenheit. I love the gasoline smell in Dior Fahrenheit. This one's a little different in that most consider it to be more palatable or more wearable because the gasoline element is probably rolled back about 30%, 50%, something like that. There's a little touch more sweetness, a touch more spiciness, but it's just beautiful leather and violet accord, which gives you a little bit of that gasoline as well as some awesome fresh spices. This is an all year round fragrance. I'm going to get a ton of use out of this one already in just a few days. My sons have been wearing this one as well. We have been smelling good around this house. All right, next up, we'll go with one that is a cheapie, but I still put it at the top of the list of clones that I have. And I don't even know how many I have, but I have dozens and dozens and dozens. This one I picked up for about $5.50, although normally it's $10 at the rack stores and you can get it for $15 to $20 online. This is a clone of Tom Ford's Ombre Leather, and I actually prefer it to Ombre Leather because there's a touch more sweetness. There's a touch of fruitiness in the opening that's a bit like Tuscan Leather, and maybe just a very little touch more spiciness. I'm talking about the original Ben Sherman Signature. Yeah, the original Ben Sherman Signature. This is a beautiful leather fragrance. I mean, it's gorgeous. I think Ombre Leather is also gorgeous, but if I'm honest, I would prefer a touch more sweetness, a little more something, maybe a little more fruitiness, a little more spiciness to set it apart from just straight leather. This one right here is about a 6 to 7 hour performer, so not as beastly as one of the Tom Ford leather fragrances would be, but it's just ombre leather, probably 90% with a touch of fruitiness, a touch more sweetness and spice. It is beautiful, and I think even more mass-pleasing than ombre leather. And if you can get it for 10 bucks at the rack store, buy 3 bottles if they've got them. It is awesome. All right, next up, this one is an unbelievable clone. It may be, probably top 3 of all my clones. This one is so very similar to Dior Homme Intense that I can barely tell them apart. I have DHI up on the top shelf up here. This is WATANIAH's KAYAAN Classic, and it is a killer clone of Dior Homme Intense. And it's got all of it. It's got that lipsticky, waxy iris. It's got that ambrette. It's got that warm vanillic sweetness, a touch of spiciness, a touch of woods. It is Dior Homme Intense. It's a great performer. I don't know whether it performs better or if my nose just perceives it stronger, but this performs better on my skin than DHI does. This one probably lasts 8 hours plus. DHI, after about 7 hours, is kind of undetectable on me. Great performer, so very similar, and I think you can get it for about $40 online. KAYAAN Classic. All right, next up we'll go with one. This one is unbelievable. It's from Alexandria, but I bought it. I've bought all of my Alexandria fragrances. I don't feature them a lot, but this one is a killer. This is a clone of Memo's African Leather, and this one's just called African Magic by Alexandria. Hopefully it's focusing okay. This is just beautiful, spicy, sweet leather. The leather is a touch animalic, and so it's not as smooth as something like ombre leather or Ben Sherman Signature. It's a touch animalic. It's got a beautiful spicy cardamom. It's got just the right amount of sweetness. It is Memo's African Leather. High quality, long lasting, excellent, excellent clone by Alexandria. My wife doesn't typically like leather fragrances, but this one and one or two others she does actually like. This one she likes a lot. It is definitely one that is appealing, attractive, sexy, and this one smells just like African Leather by Memo. All right, next up, I'll go with one by Fragrance World. They've been coming out with some amazing clones of kind of fragrance community darlings. This is one of them. This is a clone of Guerlain's, the Ideal L'Homme line. This is Fragrance World's Supreme L'Homme Extreme. And so this is Guerlain's Ideal Extreme. And it is absolutely gorgeous. It's basically a slightly sweet, slightly spicy, very woody almond fragrance. I wore this last night, and I just had a couple sprays on my hand, and I smelled this for, probably 6 or 7 hours, and I was already wearing from earlier in the day Mercedes-Benz Intense. And so this one I sprayed on as kind of an evening scent. The first few times I wore it, I only smelled cedar, and it didn't seem to last very long. It's been sitting on the shelf for a few weeks, and that really does make a difference with some of these Middle Eastern clones. Some people will say that that's garbage, but I'm telling you, maceration, open it up, spray it a few times, let it sit for a couple weeks. It can be a game changer. And this one, what I was smelling last night and the last couple times I've worn it is just this beautiful, soft, sweet almond. I love almond as a note. There's a texture. There's a certain, just a texture in the air, as well as a very palatable cedar. I don't like some strong cedar fragrances, but this one's got almost like a sweet cedar, and it's got just enough spice and sweetness in there to make it just this beautiful kind of mesmerizing fragrance. Awesome clone of Ideal Extreme. And I need to do a video comparing Guerlain and Fragrance World, that line. All right, next up, this is another one that is, very top of my list. It's gotten a lot of hype. It's a cheapie. You can get this thing for, I think, low 30s, maybe even a little under 30, fragrancebuy.ca. This is an absolutely mind-blowing clone of Parfums de Marly Layton. You've probably heard of it. This is Al Haramain's Detour Noir. This thing still, every time I open it up, every time I smell it, I just think, man, I could wear that every day. It's just this beautiful vanilla with some apple and cinnamon and other spices. It's this warm, spicy, gourmand sweetness. It's got just a touch of that kind of mentholic, aromatic vibe in the opening. This is an amazing clone of Layton, and you can still get it for around that $30 price point. Detour Noir by Al Haramain. The presentation sucks, the quality of the bottle sucks, the collar comes off, the paint scratches off, it's ugly as sin, but the fragrance is absolutely magical. All right, next up, we'll go with one that's been called a clone of Invictus Aqua 2016, but this actually came out a few months beforehand, but it does smell almost exactly like Invictus Aqua 2016. Of course, I'm talking about Risasi Hawass. This thing is gorgeous. If you take the original Invictus and turn it into a somewhat aquatic, ozonic fragrance, this is what you get. It's not quite as sweet or heavy as the original Invictus, and that aquatic vibe and that kind of ozonic airiness that you add in there just makes it absolutely gorgeous. It works great in the heat. I think Invictus does work in the heat if you go light, but this one, you know, spray it 6 or 8 times. It's not going to be cloying. It's fresh, it's refreshing, it's almost cooling. Beautiful summer fragrance, Rasasi Hawass. All right, next up, here's one that I've hardly heard anybody talk about, this fragrance or even this brand. This is by Riffs. It's spelled Reefs, but I think it's Riffs because it's their riff on a fragrance. This is their version of Prada L'Homme, the original. This is Avant Garde by Riffs. And it is so very similar to Prada L'Homme. I think it's a little stronger off the opening. It's powerful for the first half hour or so. You know, it could be headache inducing if I spray more than about 4 sprays of this. It's very powerful. It's about a 7-hour fragrance or so, something like that. But you've got that beautiful fresh iris. You've got some cardamom. You've got a light sweetness. You've got a soapy cleanness. It is Prada L'Homme with very few differences, probably 90% similar. And you can get this for about 30 bucks online. It's a great pickup. Very good quality in that one. All right, next up, I'm going to go with another one that a lot of people have talked about, and I think this is at the top of the list of the clones I have because of the price point and the quality and the similarity to the original fragrance. This is one you're familiar with. This is Lattafa Assad. This is a clone of Sauvage Elixir by Dior. And it's probably 85 to 90% similar, probably still in that 90% category. There are a few differences, mostly related to the strength. You know, the licorice note is definitely stronger, more potent in the Dior. The longevity of the Dior is almost eternal. It's just like a 12+ hour fragrance. This one is probably about a 7-hour fragrance, but it smells so very similar to the Dior, and you can get it in the low 20s. Fragrance Buy is a great place for a lot of these clones. They'll often have this for $22. Even Amazon will have it for $25. Lattafa Assad, you know, to me, pretty much an all year round fragrance if you are not going crazy on your sprays. And it's just a gorgeous, fresh, spicy, warm, spicy, aromatic fougere, kind of bringing back some old style sensibilities. And if you haven't tried it yet, you should. It's a great one. All right, next up, you know, this last spot, I had about 5 or 6 different fragrances, and I could put a whole bunch of them in here. Again, I was thinking of those that I really love that I haven't featured a ton lately. This one is really a cheapie, and even the one that it's cloning is about a $45 fragrance. You can get this one for $20, but it's a very good clone, and it's one that's perfect for the heat that we're in right now. And this used to be my signature scent, the original. I'm talking about Lacoste L1212 Blanc. Say that 5 times fast. This is just the original Hunter EDT by Armaf. And so this is L1212 Blanc to a T. It is a woody floral fragrance with just a touch of spiciness on the top. And it just, right when I took the cap off of it, it brings me back. There was a period where I wore the Lacoste pretty much every day for a couple summers. You know, spring, summer, this was my scent. And this one gets so very close, and it's so inexpensive that I think it deserves way more props than it gets, because again, I hardly ever hear anybody talk about this. Armaf Hunter, great summer scent, masculine, floral, woody, slightly spicy fragrance. Gotta love it. There's a reason why that is definitely one of, if not the best-selling fragrance from Lacoste. All right, so this has been 10. Every one of these are fantastic. I'd love to hear what you would add to the list down in the comments. And again, I want to ask you to go ahead and consider subscribing and enabling notifications. I've got videos coming out every few days, and I think you'll enjoy them if you enjoyed this one. I'm Justin. This has been Sillage Scents. I'll see you on the next one.